or gift certificate. Pick a crisp, juicy apple right off the tree, or get them in the sales room. They have a lot of other fresh produce, like squash, gourds, and Indian corn, just in time for the Halloween season, all at the Iowa Orchard. To win, watch Wheel of Fortune weeknights at 6:30. When you see the wheel deal on your screen, be the 13th caller with the right answer. Play Wheel Deal and win.
Finally tonight, revenge never smelled so sweet.
Two Florida women are in the business of making bouquets out of manure. Believe it or not, people have ordered the odoriferous gifts for birthdays, weddings, and out of a need for revenge, the entrepreneurs say business does not stink. In the past 8 weeks, they've been swamped with orders for the bouquets, which cost $125 each.
Wow.
Coming up on Mondays Live at 5, a local story getting national attention.
Sammy Zawicki's parents make their first national appearance since the death of their daughter on Oprah Winfrey. That's on Mondays Live at 5.
Time now for Nightly News. Have a good weekend. We'll see you here Monday.
Magic Johnson quits the National AIDS Commission, criticizing the president. That Florida 12-year-old tells the court why he wants to leave his mother. And America Close Up tonight. The crackdown on drugs in Baltimore. Are blacks unfairly targeted?
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. When basketball star Magic Johnson announced that he was HIV positive, he instantly became the world's best-known AIDS patient. And President Bush was quick to appoint him to the National AIDS Commission. But tonight, Johnson is off that commission, fed up, and he blames the president. NBC's Robert Hager begins.
Magic Johnson was critical from the time he joined the AIDS Commission in January. Moments after a cordial one-on-one meeting with Bush that day, Johnson zapped the president in a letter demanding more money and attention to AIDS. And last month at the basketball star's birthday party, he went after the president again.
In all reality, President Bush wasn't doing anything, and he made that statement clear by not giving any money or anything.
And today, his resignation letter said the commission had been utterly ignored by the Bush administration and accused the president of dropping the ball on AIDS. Not so, said the administration's point man on AIDS, Health Secretary Louis Sullivan.
We've not dropped the ball at all. The funding for AIDS has gone from $5.6 million in 1982 to $4.4 billion in fiscal year 1992.
The federal scorecard on AIDS looks like this. In addition to the $4.4 billion spent this year, more than for any other disease except cancer, the government has speeded up approval of experimental drugs and spent a lot on research. But the AIDS Commission demands that still more money be spent, especially for treatment, wants clean needles given to drug addicts, and wants immigration restrictions against AIDS victims lifted. Bush, campaigning in Chicago, was asked about Johnson's resignation.
In reality, Johnson, tied up with the Barcelona Olympics and devoting more attention to his own AIDS-related appearances, had not spent a lot of time on commission work. It was 2 months after his appointment before he got to a commission meeting, and he's only been to one of 5 meetings since then. But the commission says it will miss him. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
And with me now is NBC's chief science correspondent, Robert Bazell, who has reported extensively on AIDS. When C. Everett Koop was general in the Reagan administration, he made AIDS a very conspicuous part of the agenda, but that's changed, hasn't it?
Indeed, and that's what this is all about. The criticism is not about money so much as it's about presidential leadership. People say, well, look what Dr. Koop could do as Surgeon General. Can you imagine what a president did? And people who are concerned with AIDS point to what President Bush did after Hurricane Andrew. He went down there, he said there's a major national disaster, these people are deserving of money and compassion, and look what a difference he made with the hurricane. They say he could do the same thing with AIDS.
And what are the chances that he will do that?
Well, President Bush, as we know, is playing to a constituency that's a big part of the electorate that doesn't want to hear about AIDS, and that's a big difference between Mr. Bush and Mr. Clinton.
Bob Bazell, thanks very much tonight. Another comment on our times today in a Florida courtroom. A 12-year-old boy telling a court why he no longer wants to live with his mother. NBC's Noah Nelson tonight, and a young man old beyond his years.
Gregory was composed on the witness stand as he talked about years of neglect, foster homes, and broken promises by his mother, Rachel.
It's not that I forgot. I thought she forgot about me. I just thought she didn't care anymore. And if she could break a promise, then if she breaks promises, then she must not care very much.
The boy said he no longer wanted to be with his mother. He answered questions about her lifestyle.
When didn't you feel like she was taking good care of you?
And he would stay out real late at night and drink all the time and bring friends home and wake us up all the time.
Did you ever see any marijuana or other kinds of drugs around the house?
Yeah.
What did you see?
Marijuana.
Rachel Kingsley cried as her son testified about feeling betrayed and his desire to be adopted by his foster parents.
Are you doing this because you want to hurt your mother?
No.
Are you doing it? Why are you doing it?
I'm doing it for me so I can be happy.
George Russ, Gregory's foster father, talked about his family's love for the boy.
Does he fit in with your family?
As though he were one of my natural-born children.
Russ was asked if his interest in Gregory was fueled by possible movie rights to his story. Russ admitted that movie rights were being addressed, but only in the boy's best interest. Rachel Kingsley maintains that she is a fit mother, and that any problems she has had in raising Gregory were financial. Rachel's father, testifying in her defense, emotionally asked that she be given another chance with her son.
She's had enough abuse, you know. She's a victim of abuse here, too.
Attorneys are now giving closing arguments. If the judge rules in the boy's favor, it will then be decided if he can be adopted. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Orlando, Florida.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, Bush and Clinton talked mostly about each other while watching out for Perot. And George Lewis tonight at Biosphere 2 1 year later. Science or stunt or something in between.
In tests, people who took Unisom fell asleep 23 minutes faster than those who didn't. You can't buy a more effective sleep aid without a prescription. Take Unisom and fall asleep faster.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Minor arthritis pain, muscle aches, pain that seems to go on. That's why you need Ultra Strength Bengay, the strongest Bengay ever. You can say goodnight to your pain with Ultra Strength Bengay.
Color Tiles Fall Blockbuster up to 50% off sale. Custom blinds, one low price. Ceramic tile, wall covering up to 50% off. Hurry, sale ends Monday.
After examining, testing, it's a fact. You can buy new Preparation H hydrocortisone cream with the maximum strength available without a prescription to relieve problem itch. New Preparation H hydrocortisone cream. Prescription strength without a prescription.
Fewer than 40 days ago now until the election, and the personal attacks are beginning to heat up. As Ross Perot flirts with the idea of getting back in, George Bush and Bill Clinton were running hard today at each other.
Now, this may be news to the governor from Arkansas. This may be news to him, but it won't be news to you. We know what made America the envy of the world, and we know how to keep it that way. And we need to open markets, not close them. We need smaller government, not bigger government. We need more free enterprise, not less of it.
Aspects. To hear him tell it, one day I'm a hayseed, the governor of a small southern state. The next day I'm an Oxford man who has an enormous advantage in a debate. One day I'm a big spender who would endanger the stability of the republic. The next day I should be attacked for not spending enough money on problems at home when we didn't have the money. To hear him tell it, one day I am an environmental extremist, depending on what state he's in. The next day I'm a big polluter.
Bill Clinton and George Bush do have one thing in common. Neither one knows just what Ross Perot is up to tonight. NBC's Lisa Myers is in Dallas now, and she has the latest on this unpredictable billionaire. Lisa?
Tom, Ross Perot has turned his possible re-entry into a political circus. The question is, what is the ringmaster really up to? In California and around the country today, Perot's volunteers again were ready to go.
He's not a quitter, and neither are we.
If Perot merely wants attention and to be seen as a player, he's already succeeded. On Monday, the political world again will be focused on Dallas, where Perot meets with his state coordinators. The Bush and Clinton campaigns are sending high-powered delegations to address the volunteers, symbolic recognition that Perot is a political force.
They invited us to come talk, and we agreed to do it. He did it. He invited us, so I thought, why not?
A key topic, the deficit.
There's no question in my mind that we have the best deficit reduction plan, and so we are sending a team down.
What happens after that? Well, Perot claims that will be decided by his volunteers. But if it really were up to them, Perot would not have dropped out 2 months ago after concluding he could not win.
I believe it would be disruptive for us to continue our program. So therefore, I will not become a candidate.
What has changed since then? Nothing, except that Perot has even less chance of winning. And now he is haunted by this. A former leader of his New York Volunteers says Perot's political mischief must stop.
It is more destructive than ever. What he's doing is distracting people from the real issues.
If Perot runs, he'll be prescribing tough economic medicine, which isn't going to be popular. And he would face more scrutiny of Inspector Perot, as he became known, of the billionaire's seeming paranoia and penchant for secrecy. Perot won't even say when he'll announce a decision, but he'll be under enormous pressure to do something by Tuesday. Everyone's patience is exhausted. Tom?
Thank you, Lisa. And just as President Bush is fending off the latest round of Iran-Contra stories, his administration's dealings with Iraq are also getting close scrutiny. The Clinton campaign is making certain of that. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has more on that story tonight from Washington. Andrea?
Tom, congressional Democrats have uncovered new evidence that the president's top advisors knew Saddam Hussein was building his war machine with U.S. help, right up until he invaded Kuwait. Saddam Hussein had reason to party in 1989. He was getting weapons technology from the United States and U.S. loan guarantees enabling him to buy more weapons abroad, all from a future enemy. George Bush has repeatedly denied that his policies helped Saddam.
We did not enhance his nuclear, biological, or chemical weapon capability, a charge recklessly made in this political year.
But James Baker knew. March 1989, the Secretary of State is told that Iraq is harboring terrorist Abu Abbas and working hard at developing chemical and biological weapons. July 1990, another memo to Baker. Saddam was getting chemical and biological weapons and might be seeking nuclear weapons from U.S. exporters. Baker wrote to Commerce Secretary Mosbacher suggesting tighter export controls. That same day, Iraq was mobilizing on the Kuwait border.
Our investigations has uncovered documents which reveal that not only did the president not tell the truth, but the Secretary of State, James Baker, knew he wasn't telling the truth.
More evidence of U.S. involvement. Testimony at a sentencing hearing for Christopher Dragul, Atlanta branch manager of an Italian bank that funneled $5 billion of U.S. grain credits to Iraq. The government says Dragul operated alone. But congressional investigators say the CIA knew in 1989 that Saddam was using the loan guarantees to help buy weapons. Today, the Democratic ticket pounced on the issue.
It is plain that we were coddling Saddam Hussein right up to the eve of the Gulf War, giving him agricultural credits, giving him technological help, and that he was using all of it, in effect, to build his military power.
I think that President Bush was deaf to the alarm that anyone else would have heard, blind to the evidence that was clear to anyone who could see.
The Democrats see this as a major opening to claim that Bush and Baker messed up on foreign policy, which is supposed to be Clinton's weakness and Bush's strength. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. On Wall Street today, with personal income, personal spending, and orders for big-ticket items down today, stocks tumbled. For the week, the market was off almost 77 points.
I'm going to get changed. Coffee's right there.
Taster's choice. I'll get it, okay? Hi. Do you want the lady of the house? Well, she's getting changed. Would you like to come in for some coffee?
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Who was at the door?
A neighbor. I said you were in the bedroom.
And did you tell him who you are?
He didn't ask. Great coffee.
Presenting a totally new architecture for the automobile called Cab Forward. The windshield moves dramatically forward. The rear wheels move back. This gives you more room inside. A wider track helps provide more stability and safer handling. Introducing the Chrysler Concours, the Dodge Intrepid, and the Eagle Vision. Cars that will define automotive design into the next century. In the car business you lead, follow. get out of the way. There's one battery that backs you with free jumpstart service anywhere, for any reason. Die Hard.
Can't believe I left my lights on.
Sears Die Hard. The battery you can count on to give you more power when you need it most.
America close up tonight. The war on drugs is largely fought in the streets of America's inner cities. And the prisoners taken in that war, well, they're mostly black. The total number of drug busts has more than doubled over the past decade, but the number of blacks busted has skyrocketed, up by 270%. NBC's Robin Lloyd reports from the front lines in Baltimore, Maryland.
Even during the day on a street corner in southwestern Baltimore, undercover cops are making arrests. The drug war is exploding here. In the last year, sensational drug busts have become commonplace. Cocaine gangs, heroin smuggling rings, crack dealers, they're all here.
Stay down. You got it?
Police are now arresting more than 35 people a day on drug charges. But almost all of these arrests are taking place in black neighborhoods.
Party, you're under arrest.
Consider this, of those busted on drug charges in Baltimore, 85% are black, even though most estimates are that nearly half of all drug users in the city are white. The arrest figures for teenagers are even more startling. More than 90% are blacks. Many of the city's black leaders are asking, what's going on here?
Racism is certainly involved, no question about that.
Circuit Court Judge Kenneth Johnson says he believes the war on drugs is racially biased, and he's called a grand jury to investigate why so many blacks have been picked up.
It's not my position that we should not be arresting these people. We should, but we should also arrest and convict the wholesaler, the supply, and we're not doing that. And these people are basically white.
But look at this, a drug deal on a street corner in broad daylight. Police say in many black communities, crack cocaine is sharply on the rise, and the deals are highly visible.
Blacks stand on the street corners, and they're exposed, and so therefore, as they're making these transactions, they are easy targets for the police.
Easy targets, these policemen say, that make impressive arrest records. Community leaders are outraged.
We have policies that have sucked money out of housing programs and out of education programs and health care programs while we have put money into this so-called war on drugs. It's no more than a war on young blacks.
Not only here in Baltimore, but in other cities, more and more questions are now being raised about the drug war. All across the country, the number of blacks being arrested for drugs is growing dramatically.
In cities as different as Birmingham, Alabama, Jacksonville, Florida, Columbus, Ohio, the figures show that more than 85% of the drug arrests are blacks. Federal drug officials say the reason for the high number of arrests is that people in the black neighborhoods want more action.
There is a demand by people who live there that they want their neighborhood back, and I think they deserve it.
You hear the gunshots every night.
People like Bill Gordon, a bank teller, want more protection, but are afraid more police won't solve the problem. Even the mayor of Baltimore is concerned about the growing number of black arrests and the federal government's get-tough policy.
Am I saying that that's winning the war on drugs? It's not. It is not winning the war on drugs. It is temporarily keeping some safety in the cities, but at an enormous cost in the future.
A cost that is tearing apart black neighborhoods and cities all over the country, where the casualties of the drug war are more visible every day. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Baltimore.
And you should see what's going on the streets of Moscow these days. We'll have that story and more news when Nightly News continues in a moment.
Color Tiles Fall Blockbuster up to 50% off sale. Lush DuPont Stainmaster $10.99 installed. Armstrong Tile up to 36% off. Gleaming Ceramic Tile up to 50% off. Custom blinds, all sizes, same style, one low price. Wood flooring and wall covering. Color Tiles Fall Blockbuster up to 50% off sale. Carpet, vinyl, ceramic, windows, and walls. Hurry, sale ends Monday.
Things you never heard about a Bran cereal before.
Wow.
If you've never heard this about a Bran cereal, try Kellogg's Frosted Bran. It's different. It's lightly frosted, and it's crunchy, so it tastes delicious. Kellogg's Frosted Bran. It sure doesn't sound like Bran. Oh, one more thing you never heard.
You know that's Bran you're eating.
I know, it's great.
I wasn't due for another 2 weeks. Suddenly there I was, having a cesarean. David was wonderful. And when it was all over, I had this perfect little person. In a lot of pain. Later I was kind of surprised when the doctor gave me Tylenol. With all the other choices they have, but the Tylenol made me feel better. So I could put my mind on more important things.
Tylenol, a pain reliever hospitals use most.
I shampoo for dandruff, but my scalp still itches.
Now there's Scalpicin for deep scalp itch, not ordinary dandruff. It's clear liquid, not shampoo. With itch medicine doctors chose over these dandruff shampoo formulas.
The itch is gone.
Scalpicin.
Now, Miracle-Gro plant food comes in easy-to-use houseplant spikes. Just use this free aerator, then slip in the spike. It'll feed continuously with Miracle-Gro for up to 60 days. New Miracle-Gro spikes for more beautiful houseplants.
Here's a quick check now of some of today's other news. In Michigan, a walkout against General Motors, the second strike in a month. 4,200 workers at a body-making plant. A key issue, the elimination of 300 jobs. Tropical storm Danielle, it's pushing north in the Atlantic after battering parts of the North Carolina coast. Gale and flood warnings as far north as Rhode Island for tonight. In Florida, better weather for the launch of the unmanned Mars Observer, the first U.S. spacecraft sent there in 17 years. A $900 million mission to map the Red Planet. From the Red Planet to Red Square to Moscow, where political freedom, it turns out, has its price. The crime rate is now running 30% higher than a year ago. NBC's Bob Abernathy tonight with the good guys.
On the dark streets of Moscow, a trauma team hurries to treat the victims of another violent crime. Two 17-year-old boys knifed for their pocket money as they walked home. In this chaotic first year of post-communist reform, knifings and shootings occur every day. These boys will survive thanks in part to Dr. Mikhail Vartabyedov.
Sometimes people don't have enough money to buy food, to buy bread. They can kill for very little sum of money. If they want to drink a bottle of vodka, they can kill another person. It is a great problem, really.
In the inside courtyard of their apartment building last winter, Mikhail's wife, Natalia, also a doctor, was attacked and knifed 3 times by two 15-year-olds who wanted her purse. She bears the scars.
Very often I'm afraid, especially during dark time.
To keep up with inflation, Mikhail works part-time in private practice detoxifying alcoholics. He's also starting his own business. 3 jobs in all. He says Russians must learn that no one is going to take care of them.
I say to them, don't cry, try to do yourself something. Try to do.
Mikhail and Natalia think the cure for crime is not another police state, but faster free market reform. More opportunity, more jobs.
And I understand that if I am young, I am strong, I have my hands and something in my head, we will win.
Another call for Mikhail and his team, this one to the Moskva hotel, where police say 4 men had an argument and pulled out their knives. Sometimes, especially on a night like this one, Mikhail thinks it will take a long time for reform to defeat chaos.
Maybe 1 or 2 generations.
But Mikhail does not despair. In spite of everything, he hopes and he works. Bob Abernathy, NBC News, Moscow.
Here at home, maybe it's not a crime, but don't tell that to DJ Smith of Shreveport, Louisiana. The new Yellow Pages carries an ad for his auto repair shop. Somehow the firm's slogan, "We treat you right," came out, "We cheat you right." DJ let his fingers do the walking to a lawyer.
V8
has vegetables in it.
Really? I didn't know that. Vegetables in it. I heard that. Here's why I drink it.
Because it's tasty.
I love vegetables.
You hate vegetables.
I like these.
They kind of crush it all up, squish together, and
You can actually taste the vegetables, you know, your tomatoes,
Spinach, celery,
carrots.
it's got vegetables in it.
yes.
V8? V8!
You know, when I feel like a vegetable, I drink it. It's zippy kind of thing, a zippy thing.
Cal-Crew Painting wasn't saving what they'd hoped since leaving AT&T. Schoenstein Pipe Organ Builders was having trouble getting long-distance calls through on the first try. So like thousands of other businesses, they've come back to AT&T, and we want you back. Switch now and we'll give you credit for 1 month of long distance. And we'll pay to switch you back if you're not completely satisfied. We want you back. Call 1-800-222-0400.
To those who still believe that only expensive luxury cars should offer standard anti-lock brakes, a driver's side airbag, and sophisticated engine technology, we think you'll come around. The Civic EX Sedan from Honda.
When my arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil is the brand many doctors recommend for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. You know, just one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. So now, I don't even have to think about arthritis. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
It's been a year now since 8 volunteers were locked inside a giant greenhouse in the Arizona desert to live a life of harmony with nature. Biosphere 2, an experiment that began in controversy, and a year later, many questions remain. NBC's George Lewis tonight.
It's impressive, this 3-acre greenhouse in the middle of the desert. A year ago tomorrow, 4 men and 4 women entered the enclosure to live sealed off for 2 years from the outside world. The experimenters, known as biospherians, had told the press they would live a totally self-sufficient existence.
We have a completely balanced diet coming out of here.
But in a year, Tabor McCallum has lost 54 pounds, though he says he's okay.
I really do like my new weight much more. I wouldn't want to gain weight at this point.
Toast to record-breaking feast.
While their home video shows them feasting, the truth is the biospherians have had trouble growing enough food to sustain themselves. They've had to supplement their diet with food stored up in advance. They've also had to breathe some outside air pumped into the enclosure because of leaks. Still, the biospherians talk about how sealed off they are.
This is the most sealed structure in the world. We have less than 10% a leak rate a year.
What they don't point out is that it was designed to leak less than 1%, and that equipment was installed to remove excess carbon dioxide.
A year later, the project is still surrounded by controversy. There's an ongoing debate about whether Biosphere 2 is a legitimate scientific experiment or whether it's something else, masquerading as science.
An outside panel of scientists said the experiment was marred by poorly defined goals, too much secrecy, and too few qualified personnel. The head of the panel says the project can produce valid science, but that reforms are necessary.
The overall vision of Biosphere 2 is just fine, but what it really needs is a detailed science plan, and that is only just beginning to emerge.
Tens of thousands of visitors have paid to tour the complex. Regardless of its scientific merits, Biosphere 2 has turned into a major tourist attraction. George Lewis, NBC News, Oracle, Arizona.
That's now the news for this Friday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. Garrett Cutley will be here tomorrow night. I'll see you again on Monday.
Just ahead on your 24-hour news source, Stephen Taylor hugs his father after a Polk County jury finds a 16-year-old guilty of murder.
Fears of a serial killer stalking in Nebraska. 3 more women are missing there after the death of one. I'm Jim Strickland. We'll have an update. A busy time for Iowa farmers as they crank up the combines and begin the fall harvest.
Rain is due in overnight, but that's nothing like the coldest air of the season that'll be in here by next week. I'll have more on that ahead.
Just full of good news, isn't it? Plus, Football Friday, a live report on tonight's Urbandale Valley game, all coming up next.
Her mother came from Ireland with a 7th grade education and worked as a maid. Her father worked as a printer, and from them, Elaine Baxter learned the importance of hard work. And since then, as a wife and mother who raised a family, as a teacher who worked with children, as a legislator who created jobs, and a Secretary of State who cut red tape, Elaine Baxter has earned our pride and our respect. Elaine Baxter for Congress.
1988.
30 million jobs in the next 8 years.
1990, America's jobless rate hits a 3-year high.
I'm not prepared to say we're in recession.
March 1992, jobless rate hits 6-year high.
The economy is strengthening.
George Bush vetoes unemployment compensation.
The economy continues to grow.
July 1992, unemployment is the highest in 8 years. If George Bush doesn't understand the problem, how can he solve it? We can't afford 4 more years.
Your ring is beautiful. Is it new?
Actually, it's old and new. I took an old ring to the designer Remount Sale at Kay's Merchandise. I chose my new mounting, and the jeweler created my new ring. All washed.
Do you have jewelry you no longer wear? Let Kay's create something new for you with no charge for labor.
You know, I think I'll go to the designer Remount Sale, too. Good.
This Friday through Sunday, experience Kay's Merchandise. A little different, a lot better.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Ken Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
One look says it all as the guilty verdict is read today in this Des Moines teenager's murder trial. And in Nebraska, investigators search for 3 missing women and try and solve the beating death of another. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Pope in for Kim. She has a night off. More on the missing Nebraska woman in just a minute. But first, our top story, a conviction in the Stephen Taylor murder trial.
After 3 days of deliberations, a Polk County jury returned its verdict this morning. 16-year-old Stephen Taylor was found guilty of second-degree murder and terrorism in the 1991 drive-by shooting death of Darrell Grady. Those convictions carry a mandatory prison term. Taylor faces up to 60 years. As News Center 13's Kathy Soltero reports, prosecutors hope today's decision sends a strong message to area gangs.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Stephen Andre Taylor, guilty of the crime of terrorism. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Stephen Andre Taylor, guilty of the crime of murder in the second degree.
The look on 16-year-old Stephen Taylor's face said it all. As he listened to the verdict, he shook his head and then showed obvious signs of disgust. Within seconds, the look of anger turned to an expression of disbelief. Though the prosecution sought a first-degree charge against Taylor, prosecutor Jim Ramey says he was pleased with the jury's conviction on a lesser charge.
The decision is the jury's statement on this case. I have no qualms about what they've done. I'm sure that they took their time, did a very good job.
Taylor was found guilty in the 1991 drive-by shooting death of Darrell Grady. Throughout the trial, Taylor maintained his innocence, saying this man, alleged Vice Lord's gang member Lorenzo White, was the trigger man. White was originally charged in the shooting, but later his case was dismissed. Prosecutor Ramey hopes today's decision is a warning for other gang members.
I think the jury is saying this is an activity, this gang behavior, driving around in cars with loaded weapons, getting involved in that at all is something we're not going to tolerate.
Found in shackles, Taylor hugged his father before leaving the courtroom. Taylor faces up to 60 years in prison. For now, he remains in custody at the Polk County Jail until his sentencing November 4th. At the Polk County Courthouse, Kathy Soltero, News Center 13.
As we saw, Stephen Taylor's father was in the courtroom. Hubert Taylor Jr. doesn't believe his son was the trigger man, but he says he's not bitter about today's verdict. And he talked about the growing danger of street gangs.
Stay out of gangs. Stay heights.
When someone hurts, it's going to be your next neighbor, the one you went to school with. It's always one of them, your other buddies. Stay in school. It's the only way out.
Hubert Taylor also said that after this whole experience, he's just glad that his son is alive. Again, Stephen Taylor's sentencing date is November 4th.
Law enforcement officers in Nebraska tonight looking for a killer, a kidnapper, and 3 more missing women. So far, there's a lot of fear, but not very many new leads to go on. News Center 13's Jim Strickland in the newsroom. Jim, you talked with the chief investigator in one of the cases today. Any link to the Tammy Zwicky killing?
Scott, authorities say there appear to be no links to the Zwicky case at this time, but they admit talk of a serial killer has people nervous. One killing has already been confirmed. 19-year-old Tammy Haas had been missing for a week before her body was found Wednesday. Missing from Yankton, South Dakota, she was found here, beaten to death, about 150 miles north of Omaha. Investigators are looking now for links between Haas and 3 other missing girls. 18-year-old University of Nebraska student Candy Harms disappeared Tuesday night. Searchers combed the area where her abandoned car was found north of Lincoln, but turned up nothing. That's much like the case of this woman, 27-year-old Mary Cronin. She disappeared in April from outside Omaha. Her car was found, too.
There are some similarities, of course. I've got a car that's been abandoned. The ages are similar. But right now we have no concrete evidence to tie them together.
And there's the case of this girl, 17-year-old Kenyatta Bush of Omaha. She's a high school student. Her car was parked in the lot of her high school on Wednesday. An honor student, she hasn't been seen since.
Wondering if your baby's dead or alive? I'm thinking the worst, and I probably shouldn't, but I'm thinking the worst.
Again, while police are looking for links to these cases right now, I'm told they are not operating on the assumption that the cases are linked.
Jim, oftentimes investigators in cases like this aren't going to say too much, but do you get the feeling that at least they're suspicious that they may be linked?
Well, I did ask that question, Scott, of Captain Clemens, Greg Clemens from Douglas County over there in the Omaha area. He said you'd be a fool not to call them suspicious, so they certainly are working with that in mind, but again, they can't determine whether there's any links between any of these cases or the Zwicky case at this point.
All right, Jim Strickland reporting for us. Thanks. Des Moines police still asking for your help in catching another crook. This surveillance video we showed you last night has generated a number of calls to the police department. The pictures were recorded at high speed at the Come & Go store on East Euclid yesterday. Now, in this final frame, the suspect appears to be concealing a weapon next to his left arm. If you can help police find the suspect, please give him a call. The number you see on the screen, 283-4864.
Some residents tonight in southeast Des Moines threatening to sue the city. It has to do with lead levels in their neighborhood. The EPA says they're 2 and 3 times higher than what's acceptable, that the soil should be removed. Sue Fisher and others say the city has ignored the problem. City officials say that's not true. They say they're waiting for more information from the EPA. Time now for a quick look at the weekend forecast. It starts out wet.
That's right. Meteorologist Gary Amble joins us from the Weather Center with the latest. Gary?
Well, Scott, right now the rains are across parts of South Dakota and Nebraska, but they are headed our way, and they should be passing during the overnight hours. Here are your rain chances tonight, and most of Iowa set up with about a 60% chance of rain, and the odds on that may be a little higher than that. But although we're at 60% chance of getting rain, the amount that we get is less than other areas. The heaviest rain should fall out to the west, and generally less than a half an inch, and here in central Iowa, anywhere from about a tenth of an inch to around a quarter of an inch. So it's not a big rain event coming in, but maybe kind of a sloppy way to start your weekend. And I'll have more on what's going to be the coldest air of the season getting in here next week, Scott, just a couple minutes ahead.
Can't wait for that. Thanks, Karen. Much of the nation's political spotlight shining these days on Ross Perot and his possible re-entry into the presidential race. But that spotlight will also glimmer on Iowa in the days and weeks to come. Democrat Bill Clinton will be in Indianola Sunday for that city's Fall Fest and to do some fundraising for Senator Tom Harkin. Next month, Clinton's wife Hillary will be the featured speaker at the Democratic Party's annual Jefferson-Jackson Day dinner. And on the Republican side of the political coin, the wife of the vice president, Marilyn Quayle, makes a campaign stop next week in Davenport.
A U-turn on Interstate 80 results in a late-day accident. Look at that when the news continues.
And the harvest gets underway in central Iowa. Farmers we've talked with remain optimistic about this fall's crop.
But a different story in southern Iowa where flood damage takes a heavy toll on crops. We'll look at some figures when we return.
If you like them fresh, you'll love them Fisher.
You can see how fresh Fisher peanuts look, smell how fresh, taste how fresh.
If you like 'em fresh, you'll love 'em Fisher.
Compared to the leading regular dry roasted brand, Fisher isn't coated with all kinds of flavorings. And taste, Fisher dry roasted peanuts taste more like peanuts fresh from the shell.
If you like 'em fresh, you'll love 'em Fisher.
I drove it for 8 years.
Your Toyota dealer invites you to discover the all-new Corolla.
I never got so much out of a car.
Totally redesigned, including a standard driver's side airbag and available ABS.
It lasted me all 4 years of college. Okay, 5 years.
Plus Corolla's reputation for value and reliability that Toyota dealers have been delivering for over 25 years.
But I've gone on to bigger and better things. Just got the new one.
Rediscover value at your Toyota dealer and discover Corolla again.
What's the difference between the shrimp dinner at Bonanza and the one at most restaurants? At Bonanza, you get all the shrimp you can eat. Right now, get an unlimited serving of golden fried shrimp at a special low price, including our Fresh Tastics food bar. And if all that doesn't fill you up, you can always order more. Bonanza, where the extras don't cost extra.
Cut yard jobs down to size with a McCulloch chainsaw from Menards. They're ideal for trimming trees, cutting firewood, and more. 2 sizes are on sale now. This 14-inch Eager Beaver chainsaw is just $97. And save on these affordable Hawes wood stoves. They'll add traditional wood stove charm and efficient wood heat to your home. Now starting at just $298. Warm up your winter and save at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
This is the first week that many central Iowa farmers have had to go into their fields. It is time to harvest the crops. A season of drought and hail and flooding has taken its toll on corn and bean crops.
But as News Center 13's Cordy Maxwell tells us tonight, 2 central Iowa farmers remain optimistic despite constant battles with Mother Nature.
Norman and Mike Albaugh are a father-son team who farm east of Ankeny. This week, they started harvesting part of their 1,000-acre bean crop. They say it hasn't been an easy year for their soybeans.
These we'll be able to tell. These have got some hail damage on them, and on some of the high ground, they burned out there when it was hot. So they're pretty uneven. It's going to be tough to tell until we get them all in the elevator.
The Albaughs started harvesting beans this week, but say they need a couple of weeks of warm, dry weather before they're ready to harvest corn.
See, corn is late coming on, and it's going to be a lot. It isn't maturing right.
With rain expected in the forecast, the Albaughs remain optimistic. Frost is expected next week.
Better than expected. Even though it's late, the frost held off, so it's in our favor.
The frost won't hurt their soybeans now, and the Albaughs say if the frost can hold off for another week, the corn shouldn't be affected either. Near Ankeny, Courtney Maxwell, News Center 13.
Won't be much of a harvest for dozens of farmers in southern Iowa this year. Officials with the Iowa ASCS office say more than 140,000 acres of cropland in 13 counties suffered some sort of damage from the floods we had a couple of weeks ago. Initial reports indicate that bean crop was more adversely affected than the corn. ASCS officials will meet with the State Emergency Task Force on Monday, and that information will then be sent on to the federal government. And a dramatic development in a Florida courtroom.
And Gregory, you're the son of Mr. and Mrs. Russ at this moment.
12-year-old Gregory Kingsley has won his separation from his biological mother. He is now legally adopted with the parents that have been taking care of him. Judge Thomas Cook ruling in Florida that this high-profile case, this 12-year-old Gregory Kingsley, will be able to stay with his adopted parents, and he's won separation from his biological mother.
Of course, I have a lot more on that coming up at 10. Another Football Friday, a live report on tonight's Valley-Urbandale game a little bit later in sports.
So first, a look at the weekend weather from meteorologist Gary Amble, and it sounds like it's going to start kind of soggy, Gary.
Well, it really should. We should be looking at rain in here within the next 8 to 10 hours or so. You may wake up to a sprinkle on Saturday, but this is nothing like what's going on next week. I'll have more on that coming up next.
Looking for bright, exciting decorating ideas? Then come to Redeker's in Boone. Our interior designers can help you turn the out-of-date into the beautifully up-to-date. They're expertly trained to suggest styles and colors that will harmonize your home, say gracious things about you. Whether it's one single piece or a roomful, our designers can make a beautiful difference. And best of all, at Redeker's in Boone, their bright ideas won't cost you a penny more.
Paying too much for your insurance? You could be if your insurance company hasn't offered you programs to help lower your premiums. At the Ally Group, we know that saving money is important to you. That's why we're always designing new programs to help lower insurance costs. By combining home and auto insurance at the Allied, you can receive substantial savings, and that's just one Allied advantage. So call me, Donna Smith, or contact your agent to receive Allied's guide on how to lower insurance costs. You'll get answers that you can trust.
Which Buick dealer in Iowa was judged #1 in customer satisfaction by all Buick buyers? Lauterbaugh Buick Pontiac in Newton. We've always said that buying a new car from Lauterbaugh Buick is a pleasant experience, and it seems our customers agree. Now, Lauterbaugh makes buying a 92 or 93 Buick easier with big discounts, rebates up to $1,000, low interest, and generous allowances for your quality trade. Call us today. Lauterbaugh Buick Pontiac in Newton, #1 in customer satisfaction.
Tonight's forecast is brought to you by Burger King.
Burger King has 2 new country pork sandwiches. They're so good you're going to want to come in and pig out. After all, it's 1/3 of a pound of pork with pickles, ketchup, mustard, and onions on a large sesame seed bun. That's our regular country pork sandwich, or there's our deluxe sandwich. All that plus lettuce, tomato, and mayo. They're so delicious you'll be in hog heaven. Think you can get this anywhere else? In a pig's eye. So come on into Burger King and go hog wild. New country pork sandwiches.
Your way, right away, at Burger King now.
Well, in Urbandale tonight, they're hoping the Rains are going to stay away for a little bit longer. This is halftime of the JV game, but a big varsity game, Urbandale Valley, coming up in Urbandale tonight. And, Gary, you're going to keep it dry for a little bit longer?
Yeah, wow. Talk about a big game between you guys, huh?
Yeah,
Scott's an alum of Valley, and then Johnson.
I've got a son at Urbandale, so we're watching this game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go out and take a stroll around there tonight for a while. I might show up for the game.
Yeah, you guys make some wagers. I'm going to head over to the weather board and talk some weather now. And, boy, do we have some coming in here. Northwesterly flow is really going to cool things off. Now, this isn't the jet stream right now. If you look down at the little descriptor here, this is Monday's jet stream. The little shift in the winds are going to bring in what is going to be, by far, the coldest air of the season. In fact, as this moves on into Tuesday, this will shift just a little bit, likely, and we'll see even more strong northwesterly flow over Iowa. But thankfully, it's not going to last the entire next week. So about the middle of the week, make some plans to maybe put that big pot of chili on the stove. As far as the temperature departures at that time, this is what it looks like, anywhere from 20 to 28 degrees below normal. And the normal setup on Tuesday here in Des Moines, anyway, is 72 degrees, so you can do the mathematics yourself. We're looking at upper 40s for afternoon highs on Tuesday, and Wednesday morning, we could be flirting with some freezing temps. Enough of that. Let's check on some of the warm weather that's still holding on as we peer out and watch the Urbandale Jayhawks there, all with their #1s going up like this. Jayhawks didn't do so well last night on ESPN, did they? Mostly cloudy skies, 69 degrees temperature-wise. Dew point temperature 58 degrees. Winds out of the southeast 12. Barometer rising right now at 29.91. Say so long to the football players. Head out to the stadium if you want to watch them. They'll be kicking off here shortly. Radar summary showing some storms, actually light showers lined up across the Dakotas, and what's just now entering western Kansas. This whole line will be traversing to the east, but a second lobe of moisture now starting to well up on a moisture tongue that gets about 2/3 the way north across Missouri, and that will also be sliding off to the east. So we're kind of in between the little systems now, but overnight the one from the west should be overtaking us. You can see that leading edge of that on the satellite photograph now as the clouds really build in. We couldn't really see a very pronounced cool front, at least on the satellite imagery, until the front crossed the Rockies. Then it tapped into some moisture, and now we can really see a well-defined outline of clouds. And underneath that, some pretty good showers that are falling, but it really isn't going to amount to much. Here in central Iowa, maybe 1/4 of an inch at the outside. The cool front looks like this. Watch it blow through tomorrow as high pressure quickly sneaks in behind, and that should start to eat away the clouds late in the day on Saturday. If you're heading up to Ames for the big football game or whatever you're doing tomorrow, you'll likely see some showers in the morning, but as the game wears on, we should watch those rains taper off. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms down to 55 degrees, best rain chances after midnight. And again, I'm looking at mainly light rainfall totals. Then on Saturday, a few morning showers, 69 degrees, but the clouds disappear toward the afternoon.